You're 16 years old and the wheel is a second-hand Logitech G29 that you bought for €80 from a guy who seemed relieved to be done with it. It has a sticky paddle shifter, a missing clamp on the left side, and a USB cable that disconnects at anything above 90 degrees of rotation. To everyone else, it's a toy. To you, it's a starting point. Your rig isn't really a rig. It's a wooden desk in your parents' house that smells like energy drinks and contains a school laptop nobody cares about and a stack of textbooks from classes that you never really paid attention to. You move the books to one side, you clamp the base down until the plastic groans, you pull up a squeaky office chair, and you start. You don't know what you're doing at first. That's important to say clearly. You watch YouTube tutorials on a phone propped on a tissue box because you can't afford a proper monitor. You pause the video, go try to catch a slide, spin out, and come back to rewatch because you did it wrong. You miss a braking point and spend 40 minutes trying to get out of the gravel trap. You configure the force feedback the wrong way and the wheel shakes like it's having a seizure until you figure out what you did. Every mistake costs you safety rating and occasionally a lot of patience you don't have. Every mistake also teaches you something that no guide can fully teach. The first modification is a brake pedal mod, a rubber stopper. You spend 3 weekends researching which DIY trick to use and 1 afternoon installing it. The feel changes immediately, stiffer at short travel, harder at the limit. It doesn't make you meaningfully faster, but it feels like it does. And at 16, that matters enormously. You sit in the virtual pit lane with the physics running and feel like you changed something. You did, something inside you. The next modification is a wheel rim swap. You watch every video available. You buy the cheapest F1 style 3D printed plate you can find that get reasonable reviews. The first time you try to unscrew the faceplate without striping the plastic wires, it nearly breaks the board. You borrow a precision screwdriver from a neighbor. You follow the process with extreme caution. You get the wheel assembled and it sits 15 millimeters closer to your hands than it did before. You drive it for an hour just to feel the difference. This is how it starts for every sim racer who ever amounted to anything. Not in a motion simulator, not with coaching, in a bedroom that's barely a room with equipment that isn't quite right, learning through trial and error and a stubbornness that refuses to accept not knowing. You're 18 now. The setup has been through stages, a sturdier desk, a different monitor, a wheel stand you built yourself that's slightly crooked, but only if you look closely. You know this hardware. You know how it calibrates when it boots up. You know the weird rattle it makes when you hit a specific curb at a specific angle. You know where every button mapping lives and why each one was made. You discovered Online League 6 months ago, a Discord server on Sunday evenings with 40 people in the voice chat and the specific culture that forms around competitive virtual racing. You showed up the first time feeling like you were entering a room where everyone knew each other and you knew nobody. You qualified next to a fast Mazda. The driver texted in chat and looked at your telemetry and asked about the tire pressures. You talked for an hour. The community teaches you things the single player can't. You see driving lines you've never thought of. You understand what's actually good racecraft and what just looks fast. There's a difference and it takes exposure to learn it. Someone in a league shows you that your trail braking is wrong in a way you couldn't see yourself. Someone else explains why your differential bias needs addressing before you lower fuel load any further. The knowledge transfers through conversation in a way that transfers through no other medium. You also start learning the culture's hierarchy. Drivers are evaluated with an honesty that can feel brutal until you understand it's a form of respect. Nobody is polite about a dangerous rejoin because politeness would be condescending. When someone takes time to tell you what's wrong, it means they think you can fix it. You learn to receive feedback as information rather than judgment. Your driving gets cleaner, not more aggressive, cleaner. The understanding that consistency is harder than a single fast lap is something every serious racer eventually arrives at. 20 years old and someone in the server invites you to a ranked platform, a proper service, split systems, licenses required for advanced series. You go expecting to dominate. You discover that you don't know how to control your own car under pressure. The first official race is 20 minutes. A more experienced teammate watches your stream for the first 3 laps. He doesn't say much. He lets you drive. At the end of the 3 laps, he tells you 3 specific things you're doing wrong. You're braking too early and too hard. You're carrying too much speed into apexes and losing it on exit. Your shoulders are tense and transmitting that tension to the inputs. You spend the rest of the season working on one thing at a time. The difference between driving an arcade car on a controller and driving a simulation car on a service is the difference between listening to music and playing it. One is passive. One requires everything. You approach the sim differently after your first big drop in safety rating. Performance-oriented now. Pedals with load cell sensors for better muscle memory, a rig that doesn't flex under sustained load, a monitor with higher refresh rate because frames are everything and anything else you add on top of visual clarity is secondary. You take distractions out. Overlay menus gone. Shift lights dimmed. Things you'd never remove on a casual game come out without hesitation because the split doesn't need them. The lap times get lower. You get faster. The 2 processes happen together and it's impossible to separate them. This is the thing about sim racing that nobody explains before you experience it. The rig and the driver develop in parallel. A stronger wheelbase in the hands of an undeveloped driver is just a faster way to make the same mistakes. A developed driver on an untouched setup is already finding tense that expensive gear couldn't manufacture. 23 years old, the desk is gone. You sold it to someone who reminded you of yourself 4 years ago and used the money plus savings plus a loan from your father to buy something with more potential. A full aluminum extrusion profile rig. Direct drive wheel, load cell pedals from the factory. A platform with a real ceiling. You build it properly this time. Not because you couldn't before, but because now you know what properly means. Every adjustment has a reason. The seat position is angled because the formula position causes insufficient lower back support during long stints. The pedal face is adjusted because heavy braking means more leg muscle demand. The monitor mount is lowered because incorrect field of view loses visual depth and depth is speed. Every change connects to the next one. The system thinking that you couldn't do it 16 because you didn't know the system. You tune the force feedback software yourself for the first time. You borrow a telemetry analysis setup from a friend who's deeper into this than you are. You spend 2 full weekends learning the data software. The first time you make a change and log the lap and see the telemetry graph, you feel something shift in your understanding. The car is a system of slips and angles. The force feedback is the translator. Tuning is the process of making the translation more accurate and more efficient. You've been a passenger in this process until now. Suddenly, you're in the room where it happens. The rig sits perfectly rigid on a carpet in a room you respect, not a setup you're moving around or packing away, a dedicated space with a purpose behind it. You drive your first endurance stint and the 3-hour race is the most focused 3 hours of focus you've ever done. 26, and you have a reputation in the regional competitive league scene. Not famous, known. Your setups get shared. People recognize your name in top splits. Teams at a higher level know your pace because you've asked good questions and done visible work. You've started helping other people with their telemetry. Not professionally, as a favor or because a handling problem is interesting, or because someone trusted you with their team car and that trust is worth honoring. You diagnose things. A friend's Porsche has been set up by 3 different engineers and still snaps under braking. You spend a Saturday with a laptop and a MOTC workbook going through it methodically. You find a damper setting error so small it took 3 people to miss. The car runs stable for the first time in 2 weeks. You realize that engineering is a separate skill from driving. Driving is understanding how to extract pace from the car. Engineering is understanding why the car didn't give it. Both require knowledge. Diagnosis requires something beyond knowledge, a kind of pattern recognition that comes from having seen enough telemetry data to understand what instability looks like. You've seen enough now. The pattern recognition is there. You build a custom baseline setup for a front-wheel drive touring car that qualifies on pole on a track not designed for it with a differential management solution you developed yourself after the car tried to spin you twice during testing. The telemetry gets featured in a popular sim racing forum that reaches people you've never met. 47 messages from different teams in the week after it publishes. 29 and you're doing this for money. Not only for money, but consistently for money, which is different from the before. A small dedicated room, a triple monitor setup, a direct drive base you share commercial time on for a sponsor down the street, a PC with 7 different simulation platforms on it, a waiting list of 3 weeks for private coaching. The professional environment reveals something the bedroom never could. When it's your safety rating in your free time, you accept a certain level of risk and a certain timeline. When it's someone else's team points and someone else's prize money, the standards are absolute. The difference between a line that works and a line that's optimal is invisible to most people. It becomes the thing you're most focused on. Drivers bring you replays they've recorded carelessly and practiced badly and want fixed. Some of them are fixable. Some of them have genuinely bad habits and you have conversations that require saying things people don't want to hear. You've seen enough races destroyed by bad passing decisions to understand that there are lines worth holding, even when someone is upset about it. You develop specialties, high downforce setups on bumpy street circuits, wet weather tire management, older classic simulation physics that most drivers don't know and fewer want to learn. The knowledge that most people won't bother acquiring becomes the knowledge that defines your coaching practice. You charge accordingly. The community knows you differently now. Not as someone with a quick lap, as someone with a system. The distinction matters. A quick lap is an outcome. A system is a commitment to a standard of performance across every outcome. 33 years old. You have a proper esports organization now. 3 active drivers, 2 analysts, your own server host, 2 full-time creators. One of them you coached yourself from someone who knew almost nothing about weight transfer. He's good now, better than you were at his age because he had you to learn from. The team has a reputation that extends beyond the region. Drivers apply from hours away. You've turned down applicants that weren't right for reasons that weren't apparent to the community. That's always a hard conversation, but it protects something more important than the roster size. Cars you've engineered win major endurance events. A driver you coached holds a world record for his class. You also teach, formally now, master classes online, technical seminars at gaming conventions. You write setup guides that get read by people learning the physics engine. The knowledge that took you 15 years to accumulate moves faster through other people because you're organizing it and transmitting it rather than waiting for each person to discover it independently. This accelerates everything. It's the most satisfying thing you do that doesn't involve a qualifying session. The management side is harder than the physics side ever was. Contracts, sponsorships, registration fees, hardware upgrades that need replacing exactly when you can the least afford it, drivers who get burned out or leave or need breaks. You solve these problems the same way you solved setup problems, systematically, with the assumption that everything has a solution if you understand the data correctly. You're 38 years old and the car sitting on the virtual grid in your stream is going to win a major championship. Not almost, it's going to do it. You know this because you've been through the telemetry 500 times, because the setup values are chosen with no compromise, because you've simulated and resimulated and understood every track temperature variable, because the driver is the best you've ever worked with, and you've worked with people who race professionally in the real world. The car is a virtual Porsche 911 RSR that has been adjusted to its absolute limit and programmed around a customized tire model strategy that produces consistency numbers that would have seemed fictional 20 years ago. You built the baseline telemetry workbook yourself over 9 months, not because you needed to, because no one else who reads them is going to know the trace the way you know it. Race day comes. The green flag drops. It's not the first stint that secures the lead. The second stint reveals something the weather radar didn't show in testing. A tire degradation inconsistency at the end of the long straight. You fix it during the pit stop strategy call. The final stint the driver runs flawlessly. The championship falls by a margin that surprises even you. You don't stream about it immediately. You shut down the PC. You sit in the kitchen and drink something hot and think about the Logitech wheel on the wooden desk with the squeaky chair and the phone on the tissue box. The distance between that moment and this one is almost impossible to calculate. And yet the logic of it is perfectly clear. Every step followed the one before it. Every mistake became part of the knowledge. Every platform taught you something the sim before couldn't. 42 years old. The team has trained 11 drivers who now have their own professional esports careers. A car livery you designed is in a virtual hall of fame for sim racing history in a museum display. You were invited to a global developers summit and you spoke for 40 minutes to physics engineers from software companies who build the titles you learned on. You still do the driving yourself. Not all of it. The organization requires too much of you now. But the special events that matter most, you stay close to. Because the moment you stop driving the laps, the knowledge starts drifting from real to theoretical. And theoretical knowledge in a competitive team is a liability you refuse to carry. Somewhere right now a 16-year-old is at a wooden desk with a used wheel they paid too much for in software settings they're not sure how to use. They're watching a video on a phone propped on something that isn't a stand. They're going to do it wrong the first time. They're going to miss a turn and feel stupid. They're going to get it right eventually and feel something that will point them forward for the next 20 years. They'll figure it out. Most do. Some of them will reach the level you reached. A few of them will go further. Because they'll learn what you learned, but they'll also learn what you didn't. That's how it's supposed to work.